Yeah.
Why not? Shameful promotion's not bad. You know what would be helpful? Our recording program.
Yeah. Hi, YouTube.
Hi, YouTubers. I haven't even brought up our audio recording. I've got our video going, but no audio going at all. I'm hoping our audio is even working. I think it is. Oh, yeah, look, it is.
Testing 1, 2.
3. Testes. 1, 2, testes.
You hope there's only 2.
1, 3 testes. Well, wait a minute. I dropped a third. So, Gary, you were talking about that cabinet, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking about using it to replace that one. Yeah. Right there. He's got a nice cabinet with, like, glass doors and everything on it. I was thinking about getting it from him and bringing it here and taking that whole blue thing out and putting all my stuff behind glass. And I already looked online and found, like, a $35 set of lights that I could...
Oh, that'd be nice.
Right? And it's motion censored. So if we walk in the room, they'll turn on.
Yeah, that would look,
right?
that would
like
look really good.
If I refurbed that cabinet and made it look all nice and pretty, cleaned it up nice. Yep. And I was thinking about putting all those figures right in that cabinet, have it right up against behind you with the lights and everything.
Very cool. And sometime when we don't have to work on a Saturday,
yeah.
I'll bring that up.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. So now that everybody in YouTube knows what's going on in our world. All right.
Nobody knows because no one watching us.
This has been a long time coming. Okay. And it's International Star Wars Day. Okay. You guys ready? Okay, here we go. Hey, GalaxyCast fans. Welcome to this episode of the GalaxyCast. I have with me
3
people in the studio tonight. And, of course, it is May the 4th as we record this. And I know it won't be when you listen to it. But, hey, May the 4th be with you. It might be rather late, and I apologize. So, I have with me in the studio tonight Eric the Artist.
My name is not Scissor Punch.
And I have with me Gary the Stud.
I think that's me.
And I am your host, Bob Chrisman. So, we were trying to figure out what we wanted to talk about, and we're like, this is really easy tonight, because there's like a million and one things. For once, we're kind of like, have a million and one things going on, and it was kind of hard to decide. So we decided to pare it down to 2 things we're going to discuss tonight. We're going to talk about the announcement of the new Star Wars series, that their animated series they're doing, and of course, we can't help but talk about Infinity War. So if you haven't seen Infinity War, by the time this podcast comes out, first off, go punch yourself in the leg, because that's really stupid. I can't believe you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
And number 2, don't listen to this podcast then, at least not for the first hour, and go to the second half of the podcast.
Yes.
Because I guarantee there's going to be spoilers.
Yeah.
Guarantee there's going to be spoilers. So, again,
if
you haven't seen Infinity War, ignore the first half of this podcast.
Yes, because things like Spider-Man dying happens. Oh, sorry. Sorry.
See? Okay. So let's talk about our first subject, and we wanted to get this one out of the way. Star Wars Wars.com recently announced that they are releasing a new to us, TV series, an animated TV series.
New to everyone.
New to everybody, this is true. New to everybody, a Star Wars TV series in an animation style.
Yes.
Animated animation style.
It is basically the replacement for Rebels.
And it looks like it's a replacement for Rebels. Do you think it's going to be more anime style than Rebels, or less, or maybe the same? I
think it's going to be a bit. The fact that they're bluntly saying it has an anime style that we've been looking forward to doing for a while, makes me think it's going to be a bit more than what we've ever seen from them before.
So is this maybe going to have like a Tartakovsky kind of feel to it, do you think? I mean, not that I minded Tartakovsky's style. I kind of liked his style. But...
Yeah, I mean, his was very stylistic, but it was cool. It was Samurai Jack.
Right, it was definitely influenced by Samurai Jack.
But, yeah, I mean, it could be... I don't know if it'll be like that flat. I get the feeling this is still going to be...
Like 3D
digital,
feeling. Right,
3D CG. But I think it'll have... I mean, there's a lot of anime video games that come out now.
Yeah.
And all the cutscenes that look like they're from anime films are rendered real-time CG. So they can make the 2D anime style animation, not done traditional, but do it in computer graphics. I wonder if it'll go that far, or if is it just going to be 3D that has a more of an anime styling to it. I'm looking forward to seeing the first footage, but I think we're a ways off from that.
Yeah, which is really weird because they're announcing that it's coming out this fall.
Yeah.
I guess that's the part that surprises me a little bit. I mean, the timing. I mean, they just announced it about 2 weeks ago as we speak, and now it's coming out next fall already, and I'm kind of like, wow, you better be in pre-production, or at least I hope you're in pre-production.
I think it said they're already in production on.
I think they did say in the article it was already in production, because they've already mentioned some of the characters.
They've been planning this for probably 2 years.
Well, I think ever since they announced that there would be an end to Rebels, they already had a game plan about what's going to happen outside of that. Now, I think it's interesting that they not only talk about the series itself, but they specifically mention a pilot, Kazuda Ziono, I think is how you pronounce that correctly. Sure. And he's a young pilot, gets recruited by the Resistance. Sure. That's what it is now. Take that. Kazuda Ziono. The fact that he's trying to spy on the First Order, and again, they say it's going to be on Disney Channel in the U.S. and thereafter on Disney XD around the world. So I think it's going to be on a Disney Channel and then Disney XD later at a different point. And they specifically mentioned that it's about Star Wars. It's titled Star Wars Resistance. But they talked about Oscar Isaac playing the role of Poe Dameron, Captain Phasma being voiced by Gwendolyn Christie.
And that all of this takes place before Force Awakens. Correct.
They do mention the timelines before The Force Awakens. They mentioned BB-8, which I think is going to be their way to draw in the kiddies.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I mean, he's right in the first teaser image that they've put up.
Yeah, he's right there prominent next to the ship, basically. Other than those two things, that's all you see. It'd be interesting to see what they do with this. Do you think this could answer some of our questions about that we've always had about the latest Star Wars films? I mean, like we've got gaps that we've talked about that
which are somewhat covered by the novels that I haven't read, correct? Because you've read some of the novelization, you haven't either. So we're really bad at catching up on the novels, people. But but apparently, I mean, there are things that are in those novels that talk about how the First Order came to be, and stuff like that. So there's canon information for them to build off of already.
Right.
But I'm sure there's surprises. It wouldn't be a show without, hey, you didn't know this happened, or you weren't aware this was in Poe's past, or whatever, that this wasn't covered by the comics or the books. It's our own thing.
I just don't see them making groundbreaking decisions. Like, I don't think we're going to suddenly find out who Rey's parents actually are.
No, I mean, I just don't see we haven't even met Rey at this point. It's all before we meet Rey. That's true.
It's all before we meet Rey, so I just don't see anything being hugely groundbreaking. And so kind of part of me says this is still going to be a blah story, almost like Rebels.
I mean, that's the thing, is the last time they did this was Rebels. Rebels was set right before a major picture. Right before A New Hope happened, like 4 years before, all this happened. And what did we get? Unfortunately, kind of a snooze fest. So, are we going to say, hey, look, this is right before Force Awakens happened, and here's the boring stuff that happened 4 years before? That doesn't matter, because you know what happens in Force Awakens and how it all ends up.
Maybe we shouldn't be talking to the people who voiced the characters from Rebels anymore.
Sure.
Yeah, talk very quickly and run.
I ain't afraid of them.
You're right though, Eric. It does make me a little slightly worried about like the thought process behind it.
It's such a big universe,
and I'm more worried about the timing too. I don't know, when you sit here and you say, well, it's going to be between the end of Return of the Jedi, beginning of the Force Awakens.
If they wanted to place it much closer to Return of the Jedi with all new characters, they'd have a lot more of my attention. The fact that they're like, well, we're going to lean on Poe and Phasma again, and it's going to kind of be a retread of Rebels, where we brought in a lot of characters from the show to kind of cover the fact that our characters were weak and you didn't care about them a lot, that they're just doing that again. But if they had said, hey, completely all new characters, this is what happened not long after Return of the Jedi. Here's the kindlings of the First Order, the very beginning. Here's, whatever. Here's the last remnants of the Empire being hunted, and the new government being formed, or whatever. They'd have me more attention that way. But
yeah. So I am cautiously optimistic. I'm always optimistic when a Star Wars show comes out. I want it to be good. And I got to be honest with you, the only one that actually has piqued my interest in the last few years is the end of the Clone Wars. The beginning of the Clone Wars was bad, but towards the end it got good, and then they cut it off. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And I guess I'm slightly worried that Filoni's behind it again. Why can't we find another guy? Is there no other producers in Hollywood right now that we can lean on? I don't understand it.
Unfortunately, I get the sense with Lucasfilm that they pretty much take lifers. You get in there kind of high up and you're locked in.
And I get, to an extent, I get that, but part of me also says maybe it's time for some new blood. Maybe it's time to come in with some fresh ideas, right?
Well, I just think that they need to let Filoni do his story arc and stick with it. And then can it halfway through. That's what I think happened with Clone Wars, and that's what happened with Rebels.
I think so, too. And I think they had to scramble towards the end of Rebels to close it all up and make a nice, neat bow out of the whole thing.
So do I have any hope for this? No.
I figured you didn't.
And we're still having so many unfinished thread, plot lines, story ideas that were picked up and then dropped and never heard from again with Rebels. Is this going to start off with that whole mystery storytelling again of, oh, here's 10 things we hint at, and in like 2-3 seasons maybe we'll hit on 3 of them.
Hey, maybe they'll go back to the planet and the A-Wing pilot will show up.
She's going to be ruling the planet. Giant mountain made of the bones of her enemies.
Okay, so the second thing we wanted to talk about tonight, because we should change topics really quick.
Sorry, maybe I'm just in a bit of
We're punchy tonight.
I'm in a bit of a punchy mood. Just to finish there, I'm also hopeful. I'm always hopeful, and I love animation. I'm an artist.
Right.
I want to see really cool animated shows. So I have hope. They are touching on an area that isn't that I don't know of being explained because I didn't read the books and didn't read the other things. They're already bringing in characters we know, which could be cool. So being the positive side of it, I have hope. I'd like to see something cool out of it.
I know it ticks Gary off, but I like the BB-8s in it already, so it's not going to be good. So, okay. So the next topic we wanted to talk about, because there's going to be so much to talk about, so I'm apologizing now before we even start, that I'm sure we're going to get long-winded on this. But you know what? We're just that passionate about it. And
Yes.
it's kind of hard not to talk about it, and that's the Avengers, the Infinity War. And I am... When I walked out of the theater, I just was kind of aghast at what I saw.
Well,
it was
you
just
guys,
kind of like...
you guys had the same experience I did, where once the credits rolled, it was dead silent. In the
Yeah,
theater.
oh yeah, yeah.
Just nobody moved. People
Actually, a
just
bunch of
staring at
people in
the
our
screen.
theater went, "What?" You know, like
Well,
all
that's
at
the
the
thing.
same
Mary
time,
turned to me
you
and
know?
she was like, "What the hell did I just watch?" Meaning the ending. But.
Right, yeah.
We had people saying yes, other people going no, and like, okay.
But yeah.
So they killed
Tara
people.
was in the corner crying because Groot was one of the ones that
Yeah. We're
fluttered
jumping
off,
ahead.
right?
Spoiler alerts. Here we
Well,
go.
we already warned them about that. So she was in the corner crying, and Gary and I were just kind of like, huh. You know, and everyone's just, you know, even my wife was kind of like, "You're pretty nonchalant about this." And I looked at her, I go, again, if you read the comics, all of this makes sense. All of this doesn't make sense.
Thanos did snap his fingers and
Right.
make half of everybody disappear
Right, so
in
it's
the
like
comics too.
the fact that
it happened.
that he did it shouldn't shock anybody like it actually happened in the comics. I remember when it happened in the comics and the backlash in the community that occurred out of that, because it was like, oh my gosh, they killed half the character. What do you do? You know, like it's just. I remember the clamoring of that once it happened in the comic books. But you see, again, if you weren't part of that world, and it was a very unique world at that time because not everybody was in the comic books, it created quite a backlash and a stir at the time. So it didn't shock me at all. I was more shocked that Gary and I were able to go see it, 4 days after it opened, and had no spoilers, by the way.
Yep.
Which, thank God we could just be like, nope, don't want to watch that.
Yeah.
You know, I told him I was kind of like Cleveland showing every Infinity War thing, like no. You know, like
apart from what I purposely watched in the early trailers and then stopped watching good 3 weeks before, I had nothing ruined for me.
right.
I did see one thing fly by a scroll at one point that I thought was a spoiler, but I think it turned out to be someone who was just spouting. They made it sound like they knew what they were talking about, but they were just spouting theories.
Right.
And it was more of a meme. It was supposed to be like a joke thing, and so I realized it wasn't a spoiler because it didn't actually happen in the movie. So I was like, okay. Phew.
So there are a lot of questions that get left behind by this movie. So I thought what we'd do is maybe, you know, we could throw out some of the questions we have
Okay.
that may still be out there, you know, because there's a ton of them, and I know other people have them too, and then we could talk about our theories about some of those questions. So here's the weird question I have that kind of struck me right from the beginning of the movie. Are all the Asgardians dead now? I mean, it's
already. And then today I saw an article on that. I can answer it for you.
Okay.
100%. The director was at a group talking with teenagers
okay.
recently. This article just came out, I think, today, and he bluntly admitted. And apparently, if you watch it, it's a little clearer. There's a line of it that half. Thor says he decimated half of my people. They don't show the ships leaving unless you're kind of assuming that's what you're seeing in the background of the starting scene.
Okay.
But half of them escaped.
Did escape.
And apparently, it's confirmed Valkyrie was one that escaped.
Okay, so that answers my other half of my question, which is
Then they said, "What about
Korg?
Then, no,
what about Korg?
They said, "What
and
about Korg?"
Valkyrie?
He
and-
went, "Korg, I'm not saying."
Oh,
But Valkyrie
interesting.
did escape.
Well, Valkyrie almost has to because
Yeah.
I think she has to show up in Guardians later and some other things too, and so I could totally see that. But that was one of my burning questions.
Apparently,
from the
that was
beginning.
just. I saw the article just today. I think it was very recent.
Just watching the movie and Thanos' ideals is half the population gets wiped out.
Right. So even when it came to the Asgardians,
Yes.
they only wiped out half of them.
Yep.
Okay, I get what you're saying. So I mean, that was a question I had.
Yes.
Any questions from you guys? Are there any burning questions that get left?
Well, let's start at the beginning of the movie. So you did that one. I'll ask the next one.
Okay.
Is Loki really dead?
See, now the weird thing is, of all the deaths I think that we saw, that's the only one I think we can definitely say. I'm pretty positively sure that Loki is done.
I don't think we can.
Okay.
He's been dead before.
He
has been dead before, this is true.
He said that was Thor's line. He's been dead before, but I think this time it might stick. Or whatever he said.
The reason why I say he might be dead or he's probably dead, is you heard the cracking of his neck.
Right.
That was the one that kind of sealed the deal for me. Too.
All I know, and let's just picture it this way. What if none of that was him? What if we do a scene later where the ship explodes, Thor floats away, there's Loki's body, off comes the magic of who it really was, which is, it could have been someone we haven't seen. Maybe it was Korg.
Right.
Being covered or something, and Loki was projecting himself onto him, and there's Loki hiding off to the side. And there's a very easy way you can make Loki tricksterly survive. There was also something about his lines that he said to his brother before he was killed. One I picked up on and told you guys about, that people have said in a second viewing. One of his lines is, "The suns or the stars will shine on us again, dear brother." And people think that was him hinting to Thor, you need to go to the weapons place where the star needs to shine again. Because Loki probably knew that this had all happened and gone out. He's dealt with Thanos before. He may know some of what Thanos has done. But other people are saying that's a sign of they're going to be together again. Something is going to happen to bring him back. So, I don't know. It just seems to me it was impressive. And it certainly hit home that Thanos is a bad guy, because he kills off both Heimdall and then Loki and beats up the Hulk.
Within the first 10 minutes of the film.
Yeah. But I still feel like, to me, it just seems a little, even that, it seems a little underwhelming to be the ending of such an important character. Like, he'll get a final send-off in 4. Like, something much more majestic or something. I don't know. It just seems...
The only reason I say that I don't think that could be the case, this could be the only counter argument to that. When Loki died, remember, he gave the stone over to Thanos. Only the real Loki would have had the ability to pull out the stone mystically and move it. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, I don't think he could project that if it were the real stone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get
There's
that.
certain limitations to his projection power.
And I did
think
notice
would
he
be
had
one of
that
them.
eye shine that faded from his eyes, which was the Frost Giant look.
Yes.
So I don't know. It could be, and I won't be 100% shocked if it is permanent. But I still feel like there's something more there.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I mean, I know a lot of people are also holding on to this ideal that they'll reset it. You know, like, part of me is saying, I hope not. You know what I mean? Like, I'm almost in Gary's boat now. Where it's like, some people need to die now.
Oh yeah,
and I can't believe I'm saying that.
If everyone survives, it has no weight.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, then all of a sudden, Infinity War we built up for 10 years for what? Then nobody died, and the Marvel Universe is all great and wonderful. Then you've never read a Marvel comic, and you have no idea.
But here's the thing: we're comparing this ending to Empire Strikes Back. We're saying it's this generation's Empire Strikes Back ending. But think about that. After that, Han was okay. Luke, I mean, everything turned out okay in that movie, and we were fine with it.
But we still had that gaping question of, was Darth Vader Luke's father?
Right. So I think we have gaping questions right now about this movie that won't be answered until the next one. And I think they'll still find a satisfying way to do it. Even if a lot of the people who did die get brought back, I do think there'll be some permanent deaths.
I hope. And that sounds awful, but I hope, you know.
But the deaths aren't going to be any major character.
You don't think it'll be major characters? Yeah.
No.
I could see.
I guess that depends on your viewpoint too, because some people see major characters differently. Like, I don't, when everybody's like, Gamora died, oh my gosh, I don't see Gamora as a major character, and I know that's awful to say.
She's got a huge following, huge.
She does, but part of me also says the Guardians changed so many times over how many years? Gamora really wasn't part of the Guardians for all that long, if I remember correctly. So to kill her off, I mean, at least as far as Marvel's concerned, there's tons of other options.
Yeah, there are. But again, this is the cinematic universe. They're dealing with an audience that doesn't read the comics. So to them, this is the only Guardians they know.
But maybe it's time to prep them for the idea that the Marvel Universe moves like that.
But I think they're going to do it in the third Guardians. I don't think they're going to do it like this. Maybe. I still think she's coming back.
Here's the big deal, though, that I read today. So you're reading articles, so am I. Kevin Feige did say some people need to come to grips with reality. He said, we need to go through the mourning process. Let's come to the first part of the mourning process, and that is to actually come to the reality that, yes, some people died in Infinity War, and you need to accept that. And the fact that Feige is saying that, I'm kind of like, okay, that hints to me that he really is serious. Like, there's going to be some major deaths here that you're going to have to accept.
It could all be misdirection.
It could be misdirection, but I'd like to think that he's actually trying to prep people
totally
for
playing
that.
with that, and messing with people.
Okay.
I mean, that's the thing is they got a year to mess with our heads.
They're
gonna love every moment of it.
And like I was saying, right? Yeah, the actors' contracts are up, but you're not going to kill Captain America off. Steve Rogers is going to walk off away from the Cap.
I think that's the thing. People say Tony Stark's going to die. I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's giving up on Iron Man and going off with Pepper Potts. I think that's his ultimate ending.
Sure.
And
I think Cap becomes Nomad and just goes off into nowhere.
20 years from now.
Right, they can bring him back.
They can do the movies are flagging a bit. The triumphant return of Downey to show up as a 10-year-older, grizzled genius who does something. They're going to leave themselves those options, even if the contracts end. They're going to leave themselves the option to come back and renegotiate with these people.
That's why I'm saying Cap could become Nomad, because he could go off into nothing. They don't give him a movie or anything.
He is Nomad already.
And then all of a sudden, he just pops up in a movie to come at the time they need him the most.
Officially, he was Nomad.
In this particular movie, he's officially Nomad, although he didn't really have any of the persona of Nomad at all yet.
Well, I think the stripping of the colors of the flag from the costume and making it paired away shows him as a man without a country.
Yeah. I kind of get it.
He just didn't wear his uniform, that's all.
That's what it looked like.
He stunk.
He stank. So let's talk about the deaths. Should we talk about the deaths at the end? Well, I mean, we could go back
let's talk about this one thing. I'm waiting a little bit longer until more people see the movie before I start spoilers. But at some point, I got to mad tweet Chris Pratt and be like, you screwed everything up. You're the reason.
Yes.
You screwed it up. Just something,
if you didn't know, Chris Pratt is actually getting hate mail right now.
I can believe it.
Hate mail.
People tied into it. But
because he did what he did.
Yeah, and that to me was a great scene because I'm like, they are so close. I mean, they've got him. They're all using their powers the right way. They're using the strength of Iron Man and Spider-Man. They're using the mind control of Mantis. Groot has him held. Strange is holding him in place. I think they're all combined.
They're doing their part.
Star-Lord has nothing to do. What does he do? Get all cocky and then get mad because he's in love with Gamora and he thinks she's dead. He knows she's dead, and starts punching him in the face. And I'm like, it was a great moment. It was a frustrating moment because they literally pull the glove off, and then his fingertips catch the rim of it and pull it back.
Right.
But he's the reason they didn't win the Infinity War.
But at the same time, that's Star-Lord. I mean, that's the Star-Lord we know from the comics. That's the Star-Lord we know from the movies.
I'm just surprised they put that much on him.
I'm surprised too. But you know what? I think Chris Pratt probably said to him, "Do it."
Yeah.
I'm sure he knew what he was getting himself into.
Because here's the thing. In this movie, apart from doing some cool action, he's more of a jerk than normal. He
laid it on pretty thick for this movie.
He lays it on really thick and isn't very likable at all because all he does is have jealousy and ego issues, more so even than in the movies. At least in the movies, he comes back and is heroic and tries to do the right thing. And in this one, he kind of does. He's fighting Thanos with him, but he's
more of the snarky guy that I remembered Star-Lord to be. Star-Lord I always thought was a cross between a little bit of Deadpool, quite honestly. He's got that snarky side like Deadpool does. I see him looking like that and a little bit of Buck Rogers. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like a mixture of the two.
Yeah.
Somewhere in between. And I never felt like he was snarky enough. He's very Buck Rogers-y, but not snarky enough. And for the first time in this movie, I was kind of like, yes, now you're getting, like, snarky, like, really on edge. And I liked that they pulled that out of him and let Chris Pratt pull that out. I mean, I love the scene where the Gamora is filling up Thor's muscles, and he's
Yeah.
like, "That's it. I'm gonna start working out." You know, like, he's like goofing around about getting dumbbells.
I thought Drax, even though he didn't do a ton in this movie, was given great character moments.
Oh, yes.
And perfect lines.
Yeah.
The whole "you have gained weight," you're getting
Yes,
bigger.
yeah,
It's
you
like,
are getting bigger.
Your face has gotten bigger. Whatever he said. And let's face it, they gave him the weirdest moment of the movie.
Okay.
Drax, the whole "you can't see me."
Yeah.
I'm invisible.
Oh, yeah.
That scene goes on for a movie that they have a lot to do in.
For a good 5 minutes.
Well,
it went on.
no, not 5, but that scene was easily a minute long.
Yeah.
And in a movie where you've only got, let's see, so you got 120 is 2 hours.
Right.
2.5. You got 180 minutes to tell this story with all these characters,
Right.
plus other things. To take a full minute to show this guy slowly eating food and stretching this joke out.
Right.
Was kind of brave, I thought. I sat there going, I can't believe they're letting this weird moment play out this long. And then Mantis comes in and says, "Hi, Drax," and he's like, "Damn it," and walks away. I thought that was just a great moment. I love that they did that.
But that's very Guardians-esque too, though. It fit right in with the movies.
And the fact that they introduced them by just blaring the 80s music.
Yeah.
You knew immediately Guardians
you
were
knew-
coming.
yep, yeah, you knew
And
it
then
was
it made
coming.
sense because it wasn't thrown into the soundtrack. They were actually listening to the music on the ship.
Right.
So it made sense. And I'm like, God, these directors are so... I am a huge Russo brothers fan now.
Yeah,
What they
I
do-
gotta admit, like, they are not just visually stunning, but I think they're stunning when it comes to the audio side of movies too. Like, they
Yeah.
get it that a lot of people don't get.
Well, they get all three.
Special
They get
effects.
visual, they get audio, and most important, they get story.
Right, they understand the story has to be like the focal point of everything they're doing, and to me, this movie had a lot of that going on for it. It wasn't just all beat 'em up, hash 'em up, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, this could have easily been a 2-hour battle sequence, and they knew better.
The only part of the story that I could critique that's missing is we don't find out about anything about his followers, about Thanos' followers.
And a lot of people have said that they're
That's
they're
the
really
only
fodder.
drawback, you know?
But I felt like they, just in the visuals alone, I felt like they had a lot of character. And Ebony Maw was good.
Yeah.
I was fine with. They gave him all the dialogue. They gave
Right.
him the stuff with Strange. They showed the whole cultish following to Thanos' cause.
Right.
His absolute calmness, and you couldn't touch. He was just too powerful.
Right.
He was cool. Proxima and Midnight had a little bit of attitude and had just a few moments.
Right.
The other ones start becoming a little, the big guy was big, and the other guy had the knife, and he kept stabbing Vision with it. So it's like that was almost their characters, was the big guy was big, and the other guy stabbed the Vision. But even with 20-something other heroes, I still can follow
Right,
wow,
who
the
was
guy with the
which.
blade was after the Vision,
Right.
the time with Proxima, and the big guy was after the Hulk in the end, and they had the fight with the
Here's the
Hulkbuster.
part I
and
didn't know
all of it worked for me.
I didn't know when I came home, and I was like, oh, that explains some of it. The big guy is actually married to the woman
Proxima.
in the group, Proxima. And I
Okay.
did not know that.
Neither did I.
And I was kind of like, oh, well, that explains why they're always together. I was kind of like, oh, well, now I know why the two of them are side by side the whole time.
Well, here's what I think happened there. We're going to get, in a little
Some of the
while,
backstory.
we're going to get a DVD, first
Okay.
of all. And I have a feeling that cut out of this movie was a good 20 minutes to a half hour.
Oh, I have a feeling.
And I have a feeling a lot of it was the more they pared down everything about those characters, they decided they were still okay with. Because
Right.
they still were they were the cult of Thanos, and that's all you really needed to know about them. You wanted to know more, but you didn't need it for the story to work. And I think they discovered in the editing process, because the movie was too long and they needed to cut, everything that they could take out with those characters didn't hurt too much. And I think that was their ultimate decision, and I bet you there's going to be some of that in the DVD.
Okay. Okay, so here's another question I'm going to throw out there for you guys. So Thor goes and makes another hammer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Stormbreaker. And so now the question is, does Thor carry Stormbreaker? Does Thor pass it on? We know who that goes to.
Yeah.
The question I had that kind of caught my eye the first time, and maybe I got to see it again, is Groot armless at this point?
No.
It grew back, didn't it?
Yep.
Did it grow back? Okay.
Pretty
so
quick.
it's just kind of like they used part of his. I get that they used part of him, but I mean, you know what I'm saying, right? Like,
Yeah.
Before, it used to take him a little while to grow something back, and now all of a sudden it's like, bam, he grew the arm back, and I just don't know if that's.
Well,
he's
here's the
teenage
thing.
Groot or what the
I
deal
think
is.
it's because picture him now. He was doing the whole shoot the roots out really fast to
True.
take out enemies. So I
Yep.
think he's grown into being able to regenerate really quickly.
Yeah.
He probably couldn't as a baby. It probably takes a little while. Because even old Groot could regenerate fairly quickly.
True.
I think it's something they gain as they grow older.
So that was another question I had. So do you guys think that this is the harbinger now, the idea that we're going to bring in Beta Ray Bill? I mean, we gave the hint in Ragnarok. We saw Beta Ray Bill's face.
Yep.
Now we have Stormbreaker. There's no doubt that is the hammer that Beta Ray Bill gets.
Yes.
So is it?
It is and it isn't.
Okay.
They have confirmed that this is the Ultimate Thor.
Okay.
All right, where the Ultimate Thor had Stormbreaker or Stormbreaker.
Okay. So
it's also the Ultimate. It's also the Marvel Universe, which can cross.
Well,
cross paths, right?
Well, that's the thing is, I've always interpreted the whole MCU as the Ultimate.
It relies heavily on it.
Right.
It very much does in terms of appearance, but it's telling stories that happened
in
prior to the Ultimate Universe. Yeah.
Civil War and
right.
all these things are from. So it's kind of both.
But the Civil War is not the original Civil War either. So
no, it's not.
True.
It is an amalgamation.
So.
But here's my problem with Beta Ray Bill. And unfortunately, this is, even though comic fans are fine, with stuff, this is the problem. You cannot, it's not going to work. You cannot replace handsome fan favorite Chris Hemsworth with a ram-faced alien that becomes a major character for the series and have all the moviegoers who don't know anything about this go, I'm good with that. I think they can become a secondary character. And we do know that I think Hemsworth is going to step away, just like Evans is stepping away and all that.
And I say that because, all the women. I hate to be like that, but they're going because Hemsworth's hot. Let's face it.
There's a lot of men out there, too.
Yeah, they're like, Hemsworth's hot,
But not
Thor's
just that.
hot.
The character of Thor
Yeah.
is so much ingrained in that. You can do the idea of passing the hammer on to someone else, and I get that. And I think they're going to have to carry on the tradition. And it may even be Beta Ray Bill, but we will not see him starring in his own Beta Ray Bill movies. I think
that's why I
he'll
asked
become
that,
a secondary character so other people can step up and become 4 characters.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think they're going to bring Jane Foster back as the new Thor.
I was wondering if because
I
didn't think she was coming. I didn't think
Natalie Portman's not coming back,
but they'll recast.
They're going to recast.
You think they'll go female Thor?
I think so. Yeah.
I think that's.
I could see, and
it would
here's
make
the thing.
sense,
I think visually, the female Thor that's in the comics with the armor,
almost
would
the Valkyrie-esque
almost the
armor.
Valkyrie would look great in the movies.
I
It
do
would
too.
be a fantastic visual, and if they got a woman who actually was built
to make that
like
work.
someone who was I think someone like, I'm trying to think of who was the girl. Oh, not like China. I mean, China was the wrestler, but someone of that kind of body stature to play it. Mm-hmm. So it's not just a regular, it's an actress, but somebody who's powerful.
Got some power to her. Yeah,
I think that could actually be really interesting. I'd want to see that. I think that could play off well. But they also need to bring in there's another super strong female character that they're probably itching to bring into the series, She-Hulk. Who we've not seen yet. And I wonder if that's going to be the way you get rid of the Hulk and have Ruffalo step away from his contract is a relative blood transfusion something.
Or even Red Hulk or something along that lines could be another answer for that.
Unless they...
But that ruins my theory of what's going to happen to the Hulk in the next Avengers.
Well, not necessarily. It could still play out, but then Hulk decides to leave. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But we'll get to that. That's another question. So.
But you know who Red Hulk is, though, right?
That's Colonel
Thunderbolt Ross.
Yeah,
Thunderbolt Ross. Thank you. Which he's in the movie.
He is.
I mean,
he is, but
they're going to motion capture. What's his name?
They would almost have to. Yeah. I mean, right?
What's his name? I can't think of his name. All of a sudden, the actor.
William
Hurt.
William Hurt. Yeah. They could. I mean, they totally could,
yeah.
and they could bulk him up and.
I mean, sure. They get
how hard would
Ruffalo
that be?
Plays
if they could
the
do it with
Hulk.
Ruffalo.
Well, Ruffalo's kind of. I mean, if you've ever seen him, he's in shape.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying he's not in shape. I'm just saying.
Hey, me and him share a birthday, by the way. We're both November 22nd.
Really? I did not know that. So, all right. So that's the next question, Eric. Let's deal with that one, which is the Hulk.
The Hulk was a big, interesting thing in this movie. As everyone saw, Loki gets to bring the line back. We have a Hulk, and here comes the Hulk coming in. Great,
right.
Avengers 1 tribute moment. The Hulk gets some licks in on Thanos, and then
doesn't last long.
Thanos kicks his butt. Like I don't even think Thanos. And here's the problem with that bothers me. If Thanos is that strong, how are the other characters even fighting him? When we see the scenes where like Spider-Man's webbing him and holding him for a second, how come they're not just getting tossed around like whatever? Because the Hulk is super strong. So I wonder if part of it was the glove.
Yeah,
the glove gave him abilities to power, to beat the Hulk up that powerful, and stuff. I think on a straight fight strength basis, Hulk would kick his butt, but I think the glove gave him the extra. So then Hulk, fired to Earth by Heimdall, recreating the scene that was originally the Silver Surfer crashing into
To the
Doctor
Sanctum
Strange.
Sanctorium.
Yeah, his mansion. It was the Hulk this time, so they played off that tribute. And then we don't see the Hulk for the rest of the movie. Big surprise. Even though he's in the trailers during the fight in
Fighting in
Wakanda,
Wakanda.
and you're waiting for that moment. Never happened.
Nope, never happened.
They got us. They tricked us with that, I think, on purpose. Apparently, I read there were plans for the Hulk to burst out of the Hulk busting armor and stuff and be in the final fight scene, and then they changed as they went. But I still think that was a big fake out. They put that in knowing we were never going to see it.
I kind of liked the fact though that Hulk didn't come back.
I
And
did
that
too.
Banner was
I did
fighting him
too.
the whole time. Like, come on, big guy.
And that
we
was
need you.
so. What? That's my question to you guys. What's going on there, and what's it going to ultimately resolve to? One of the last lines Ruffalo has with the Hulk is, "We got to talk this out and figure it out." What does that mean? Because the Russo brothers have said that Ragnarok, Avengers, Infinity War, and the next Avengers are a 3-part story arc for Hulk. In Ragnarok, it was mostly the Hulk, not Ruffalo. In Avengers Infinity War, it's mostly Ruffalo, not the Hulk. What are we going to get in Avengers 4?
So, my theory is that actually what you're going to see is not what you're talking about, Eric. I think you're actually going to see the one where Banner loses control. Like, he lets Hulk take over just out of pure frustration because he won't come out. Lets him take over and then has a hard time getting out of being the Hulk. And then he gets stuck in the Hulk for an extended period of time. Because I remember in the comics, at least fairly early on, that happened.
I have the run because there's a lot of scenes of the Banner in the Hulk's consciousness.
Right.
That's how you see him.
Right. He's like literally in his mind, but not actually physically in form. And it was a constant battle for him about what's right, what's wrong, letting Hulk control, not letting Hulk control. I think it'd be a really cool story arc to play out, and how Hulk's mind works and how he works and how that all kind of comes together, considering we can't have a Hulk movie to fix all that for whatever reason. I'm still shocked by it and don't understand how that can't happen. Yeah. But I that's what I think they're moving towards, is potentially just all Hulk, and not necessarily the Hulk you're talking about, which we
no, and I have something to say about that too, because I think I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So I don't know, Gary, what do you think they're moving towards here? I mean,
what I hope they move to, or what they...
Yes, both. Like, what do you hope they move to, and what you think?
Okay, well, I'm thinking they're going to merge the Hulk and Banner together as the incredible smart Hulk.
Right.
I would love to see Mr. Fix-It, though.
Okay.
The Gray Hulk.
Yeah. The Gray Hulk. Yeah.
And the mobster. That's what he was.
Okay.
So that's what I'd like to see.
So Eric, you said you had a theory.
I have two, and that's what kind of what Gary said.
Right.
Go ahead.
But before Eric goes on with his theory, though, Thanos has kicked the Hulk's butt several times.
Yeah, throughout the comics.
Right.
Yeah.
Without the glove.
Yep.
And he does know that he doesn't want to go against him at any one time. You know, he will do it, but he doesn't seek it out.
Right.
You know, he doesn't. If the Hulk comes around, he doesn't seek a fight with him.
Right.
But he will take on the Hulk, and he will win without the gauntlet and all that.
Yeah, in the comics.
Right.
I got the sense that this Thanos wasn't necessarily that strong, especially the way Cap could kind of catch his hand and hold it a little bit and stuff.
Well, at that point of the thing, yes, he's got all the gems and all that, but he's also been through a lot to get him off.
Right, by that point, he's used a lot of his magic. He's used a lot of his power. Yeah,
he's
reeling a little bit.
Tired.
Yeah.
He's weary.
Yeah, and in the comics, Steve Rogers did do that with.
Yeah, I know. That's why I liked it. It was a nice tribute moment. So my original theory, and you made me rethink this, was that we'll get, and there's a reason why, that we were going to get in the third movie, the Hulk and Banner will merge. We'll have a smart Hulk that will trick Thanos. He'll approach him. Thanos will think he's fighting a brute, and then the Hulk will use intelligence, and we'll actually hear him speak with an intelligent. We had him speaking quite a bit in Ragnarok, and I think we'll get an intelligent speaking voice that's still deep and gravelly and whatever in Avengers 4. But here's what I think, thinking about that. Ruffalo is not indefinite as the character either.
Nope.
So now I kind of think, along the lines of what Gary was saying, is what if they merge?
Right.
but he can't change back from being the Hulk.
Right.
You now have a digital character that you can continue even after Ruffalo's contract ends.
Right.
And you do the digitalized voice, and you don't have to have him as the motion capture anymore, but you can still have the same looking Hulk. Because he
Right.
looks kind of like Ruffalo, but not enough that I think
right.
there's an issue there.
Right.
And then you have you have the Hulk, as we know him, as an indefinite digital character that they don't have to worry. They can keep using in future movies as a major or a side character. He's smart or whatever. He may go through things in the future. And again, like I said with every character here, that way, Ruffalo stepped out. But 5 years from now, 8 years from now, you want to do a story where the Hulk changes back and bring the fans back, you could recontract with Ruffalo, bring him back for a movie.
Sure.
You know, you can do that. So now I think that's probably what's going to happen, is there's going to be a merging of the character. He may be smart, but he won't be able to change back to Ruffalo. And that's how Ruffalo will end his contract. Although I hear that after Avengers 4, he's supposed to have one more movie as the Hulk to run out his contract.
To run the contract out.
So it might not happen in Avengers 4, or the process might start in Avengers 4, but it might end in a final movie somewhere.
Right. So, all right. So another burning question here that we all could be asking ourselves. Spider-Man. He's now an Avenger.
Yeah.
Gets established as an Avenger here. So what the heck happens in Spider-Man 2?
Oh, he's not dead. He's coming back.
Because, I mean, obviously, we could talk about the ending later. We have our own theories about that, and we can discuss that. But, you know, a lot of people are now saying, well, wait a minute, there's a second Spider-Man film. You see, that's the one thing, like, everybody who's proposing that not all these characters died is using the films that are coming out as the guide point.
Right.
Well, there's got to be a Guardians 3. There's got to be a Spider-Man 2. So they can't die. And part of me says, okay, obviously, you don't know a lot about the universe that we live in here. First off, there was more than one Spider-Man.
Oh yeah. And
As much as I'd hate to say that, I actually like Tom Holland all of a sudden as Spider-Man, much more than I liked who played Spider-Man before.
Garfield and
Well, Garfield I never liked.
Tobey Maguire.
Tobey Maguire was just a whiny little.
He worked when we knew no other Spider-Mans, especially in Spider-Man 1 and 2. He was horrible in 3, and it just
got worse from there.
It got worse. And Garfield I saw, and he just was It was the movies were garbage. But
Tom Holland's the first one, and I kind of felt like was a decent Spider-Man.
You really like
him. I like his Spider-Man version. I'm not a huge fan of the storyline right now, but I mean, it's okay. It's a modernized version of it. It's a modern take of it.
Yeah, and it's pulling in a lot from the comics.
I gotta be honest.
Iron Spider.
Yeah, it is.
Pulling in a lot of things.
Yeah, and of all the deaths, that was the one that actually did tug at my heartstrings a little bit when he looked at Stark and went,
I don't want to go.
I don't want to.
He improvised that.
Right, and I know he did. And after the fact, I came home and was finally able to read all these things to know that he improvised that. I mean, what an actor to pull that off, Mr. Stark. I don't feel well. I don't want to go. And just like that was the only death. And I'm not a Spider-Man. I'm like Gary. I don't like Spider-Man. I'm not a huge fan of him.
Oh, I collected for years.
I just there's something about Spider-Man. I can't. You know what it is? I don't like the whiny teenager-y superhero concept. I just never been into that. And that was the first time where I was kind of like, wow, I actually care about Spider-Man for the first time ever in my life. I don't want this kid to die. And then he floats away, and it's just kind of like, I wasn't teary-eyed or anything, but it did tug at my heartstrings a little bit. And I was kind of like, huh. So what happens in Homecoming 2 or whatever you want to call it? What do you guys think happens to Spider-Man here in the second movie? Do we go back in time? Like, how do they...
Well, they've already said that apparently the second movie takes place with kind of a Silver Sable-ish, I think, approach, and even some of it's in Europe. This all sounds like stuff that happens after Homecoming. This wouldn't be before.
Right.
This sounds like he's entrenched into Spider-Man, so I'm like...
And that's what I'm saying, like, how does that happen in between? Unless...
Oh, Avengers 4 comes out before all that.
Does it come out before?
Oh, yeah, it comes out 1 year from now.
Oh, okay.
The only movies we've got between Avengers 3 and 4 is Ant-Man and the Wasp in a month, or 2 months, and then the Captain Marvel movie next March.
Right.
Those are the only two we've got.
Okay, so it's not Spider-Man in between.
No.
Okay. All right. Well, I might be okay with that then.
None of these characters have movies in between. You think that's not planned?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's yeah.
And I got one thing to say to you. Do you think that they're major? The moment they lost me in the ending, like I see Bucky fade, I'm like, oh, that's pretty intense. That could be real. I see the Guardians start fading, like Drax. I'm like, oh, that got me. Then I see all the Guardians fade. I go, wait a minute. That's everyone is dead except Nebula. That's
Rocket didn't go either.
Huh? And Rocket.
Didn't go.
And that was good. I liked that Rocket was still there and stuff. I thought that was cool. And I'm like, okay. Then the one that got me and they lost me even before Spider-Man Black Panther fades away. There is no way with this huge movie that was a cultural touchstone that got huge fans and rushed to $1 billion and was setting up a new franchise. I'm like, nope, you lost me there, unfortunately. If they didn't fade out Black Panther,
right,
and took like his sister away or something,
right.
I'd been like, ooh, I could see that too. But when they threw away Black Panther, I'm like, they're not doing. There's a ton they're going to do with Black Panther in the future. He's only been in 2 movies. I know they got him contracted for more than that. They're not going back in time and telling old stories. I don't think. I think that to me was he's staying.
I'm laughing because a bunch of my teacher friends at school came rushing to my door like Monday morning. It was like, they couldn't have taken Black Panther. I just got hooked to him. Yeah. I looked at him all and I'm like, just chill. It's Marvel. I don't think
that's the one. If they had not done him, and not done Spider-Man, I could have believed most of it being permanent.
Yeah, the rest of it I might have been like,
I could have, even the Guardians. I could have if they had kept Black Panther and Spider-Man.
Because there's been a Guardians without Star-Lord.
And
a lot of people don't know that.
I could have been like, wow, they just recast Guardians. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I could have believed all that if they had not taken out Black Panther and Spider-Man. Those 2 going as well made me go, nope. Some of this is being. Maybe not all of it, but some of this is definitely being returned.
All right, let me ask you this question for the Guardians then.
Yeah.
Who would you like to see as the new Guardians?
Charlie. Oh, they showed him.
Exactly. The original
Guardians too. They had all those characters, and I'm like, oh, there's Charlie 23 and
Charlie 27.
27, yeah.
Martin X.
Yep.
When did they show the original?
They were in Guardians 2.
We
right?
saw them towards the end, right?
Well, Sylvester Stallone was Starhawk.
Starhawk.
Right?
Was the
would you want to see the original Guardians?
Yes.
Back together?
That could be interesting, but I think they won't do that because those characters are kind of obscure.
It's kind of tough now, ain't it? Because this version of Guardians is like 3 or 4 iterations into Guardians, right? Or something like that. I mean, I know Star-Lord didn't come until almost halfway through the story, didn't he?
No, this is the relaunch of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay, so this is on the relaunch?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was a couple more iterations in than that.
I wonder if, because of the Nova Corps being tied so tightly to Guardians, if we could get Nova. The actual Nova character with the helmet and everything as a Guardian.
Well, okay, so here's the next question. Thanos came with a stone already. Which stone did he have?
The purple one.
He had one of them from, let's see.
The Power Stone, was it? Death Stone?
He had already collected at least one that we saw.
Yeah, the one that Xandar had.
Right, he went to Xandar.
Yeah, which we haven't seen what happened there.
Right.
Yeah.
But they talked about it.
They
talked about it, but we haven't seen it.
Because we know I know he got the one stone from the Collector, because we saw the whole place destroyed.
Right.
Nowhere. We know he got the Soul Stone from the planet with Red Skull,
which we can talk about in a minute.
We know he got the Time Stone from Strange. We know he got the Mind Stone from Vision.
Yep.
So what was the one he got from? What was the one they had? The Space Stone. What was the one?
Yeah, Space Stone.
And he got the Tesseract from Loki.
Right.
That's all of them, right?
Yep, that's all 6.
Okay.
So the reason I bring up Xandar is why not use the death of the Xandarians or whatever, that battle, as the launch of Nova?
And it could be.
And that might be what happens in Guardians 3. That's how Nova becomes part of, he's the last survivor of Xandar.
Right.
And they find him and help him and revive him, So I'm just saying that would be actually a good launching point coming out of Avengers 4 Part 2, whatever you want to call it. That could be a good launching point.
But the one thing that they did say, though, is this total devastation of Xandar.
Yeah.
Destroy
he leaves half. He leaves half.
Right.
Total devastation is what they did.
So why did he do it there and not anywhere else?
Probably because they fought so hard. They had the whole Nova Corps there.
That's a possibility.
To fight them.
Yeah, but he would leave half the regular populace then.
Not if he wanted that stone that bad.
Or Ronan helped him.
Yeah.
Well, we are getting, they've said, Ronan is... Well, because the Captain Marvel movie we already know takes place like 20, 25 years. It takes place in the 80s.
Prior to, yeah.
Yeah, most of it. Because we're going to see how she became Captain Marvel, how she went to space, which is why he's calling her back.
Right.
At the end, the teaser at the very end of Avengers. But Ronan's in that movie because obviously it's many years ago. He's not dead yet, and that's why Coulson and Fury are in it too. They're being de-aged.
That's because they've already said they're going to rely heavily on the Skrull War.
Yeah,
Skrull. Oh my gosh, that's really hard to say.
Skrull.
Skrull War, and so it would make sense. Ronan's in that. Ronan the Accuser was a big part of that. Who was the blobby head thing that was always part of that too? The Thinker? No. You know what I'm talking about, right? The big green brain. that was always with the Kree, and I can't remember his name now.
I can't think of it.
You know who I'm talking about,
Yeah,
though, right?
I can't think of it.
I can't imagine he wouldn't be in it either.
Yeah.
I mean, he would have to be a huge.
And everyone's like, when the heck are we going to get MODOK? So at some point, we got to get a MODOK.
Oh my god! There are some weird things in the Marvel universe that are almost like Mr. Nitzelplex, right?
Yeah.
Like in the DC universe, and MODOK is one of those.
Yeah.
Arnim Zola, I think, is another one. It's kind of like, and I'm not talking about the one that we saw in like Civil War, or no, it was Winter Soldier. I'm talking about the Arnim Zola that's got the body with the weird computer face.
Yeah.
And, a part of me hopes they don't.
I think they'll
attempt to do
There's
any
certain
of
things
that.
they won't touch
Now,
on.
now here's a theory for the new Miss Marvel movie, though.
Okay.
All right, since it's the Kree Skrull War, right?
Yeah.
There's a certain Skrull.
Super Skrull.
Yep,
But what's interesting is what does the Super Skrull have the powers of?
the Fantastic Four.
Which hopefully they're going to get
Which
the
you
rights
can't
to.
do unless you
But-
got the Fantastic
Which
Four.
maybe they do right now. We don't know it. We know very little about the Miss Marvel.
And here's the problem with that I am disappointed in here. Okay, we all wanted a moment
Yeah.
where they gave us the hint they bought out the Fox properties.
But here's the thing. I thought that too, and then I went, wait a second. This is not the end of the movie.
True.
This is the halfway point of the movie.
True.
Those stingers, those enders, would come at the end of the movie, which is Avengers 4.
Avengers 4.
So I thought about it again, and I went, they wouldn't do it at the halfway point. Because this was supposed to be Avengers Infinity War Part 1.
Right, and then next was
and
part-
they changed,
part
they
two,
changed
right.
the names. But that it still is one long movie. So I still think we're going to get those teasers. I think it just gives us a year to wrap up all the legal and stuff. I think we're still going to get it at the end of Avengers 4.
I
I
was
totally do.
dying.
I totally
I was
do.
dying. I was hoping just for a we're here to help and a flame hand comes on
Yeah.
or something. You know,
No, I
just
think-
wanted something.
I think we're going to get definitely something by Avengers 4.
I hope. I just
so.
Now to go back to my question about the Guardians.
Yeah.
yes.
Ronan the Accuser is actually a member of the Guardians in the comic book.
Yeah, at one point he was, correct? Was it
In
through
the-
a lot of it, or?
Yeah, throughout a lot of it.
Oh, I didn't know that. That I wasn't aware of.
I like Lee Pace's Ronan. I think they could do more with him.
Yeah, I agree. I
think he did a really good job with that character. I didn't see him at all. Looking at that character, I'm like, wow, I do not see him.
Okay, so next question. Is the Red Skull dead now?
Oh yeah, we had that. We were discussing that
Because
the
he
Guardian
was
of the Soul Stone.
Guardian of the Soul Stone.
Soul Stone was
We
taken.
know he got thrown into space from the
by
space
the
stone,
by the one Tesseract,
by the one Tesseract.
which makes me wonder. Well, because I thought it was a really interesting visual. That planet changed once the Soul Stone was taken. That it turned everything melted.
Yeah,
You know, and it's like the whole planet was freed from its whatever.
right from its encasement or whatever it was.
So, was he tossed back to Earth? And I was reading just before we started this podcast, actually, that there is a character in the Marvel Universe that he kind of already matches visually, and I guess it's called the Unseen,
Okay.
which was Fury in the comics killed one of the Watchers.
Okay.
Apparently, because the Watchers saw some sort of major crime and did nothing about it, because they don't, and Fury somehow killed him. And he was punished to become the Unseen. He kind of replaced the Watcher in a way. He could only view what was happening on Earth and not
Couldn't
take part in
interfere
it.
at all.
And they said the Red Skull, especially in his cloak thing, looked a lot like the Unseen. I think they're stretching it a bit and trying
I
to
think
find
that's a
something.
stretch.
I wonder if the Red Skull. And we had discussed this before the podcast. I think the key to solving this thing is resetting what the Soul Stone did, and to do that, you've got to get out of the Soul Stone what was put into it as
Right.
the sacrifice.
Right.
If Gamora's soul is still alive in that stone, they need to get her out, and by getting her out,
They reset.
I think they reset it. I think they undo what he did. So, who knows that Gamora was put into that stone? There's only two people who witnessed that whole thing. One of which is sitting on a farm on a planet somewhere,
Right.
smiling at a sunset.
Right.
Another is the Red Skull, who may have been. He was thrown off of Earth by this one thing. Maybe he was thrown back to Earth after
But
it was
the
all
opposite, right? And so part of me also says, I mean, I applauded for several reasons. First off, I got excited and Gary laughed at me because I was like, I was right. like the whole theater heard me say I was right because I kept saying he's gonna show up when you least expect it. He's gonna show up when you least expect it. I've been preaching that to all my teachers. I'm like, I'm putting money down. He's in one of these two movies, and like, sure enough, you know, he's the holder of the Soul Stone. I was like, yes, oh, you know, I was right. So I'll be that. I was kind of a little bit bragging going on in the theater there. But at the same time, I'm also sitting here going, yes, and I'll tell you why I'm saying yes. Now, Cap has another movie. And an amazing movie that would, I mean, like I said, if it were to happen, if they do this, Marvel would do the one thing I've been dreaming they would do all along. I'm hoping that Red Skull is still alive. Some point he ends up back at Earth. He finds Baron Zemo, and we have a Zemo Red Skull against Cap and Falcon movie.
Right.
Oh my gosh! Like seriously, if you do, I'm out. I'm like seriously, I will be like, that is my ultimate comic book. Like, I loved the series where all that stuff was going on. That's what got me into Captain America. Totally would have me affixed to a movie. I mean, like, be there opening night would probably be the guy out front with the lawn chair, 20 hours before. That would be my ultimate Captain America movie. Not that I didn't like the first Avenger. It did what it was supposed to do, but it wasn't the Captain America versus Red Skull movie, and I knew it wasn't going to be that. It had to tell his story. But that's not the whole story. You know what I mean? It's like part of me is like, I'm dying to have a Baron Zemo Red Skull cap off.
And I think Ross Marquand did
a spectacular job.
A great enough impersonation that they could use him as a character.
And I really think he did a good job of studying the other version of the Red Skull, because I couldn't tell, honestly. I thought maybe they had actually hired him again.
I thought he had come back too. What's his name?
He was Smith.
Yeah,
from
and he was
The Matrix, and he was Elrond from.
Why can't I think of his name?
But
edit that out.
No, I will leave. It's okay. But I thought he did such a good job, Marquand, that I actually thought it was him. Yeah. And then we were coming home, and I pulled my phone out, and I was looking at IMDb, and I'm like, get out of town. And Tara's like, what? I'm like, that was not Agent Smith. And she goes, what? Get out of So she couldn't believe it either. I'm like, no, that was Ross Marquand. So I give the guy props.
Yeah.
He did some serious research before jumping into that role. He had to have. And I was impressed. I liked his version of the Red Skull, and it came off well.
Yeah.
So Gamora, let's talk about Gamora, because like that was the next thing that happened. The Soul Stone thing? I'm not sure I bought it, and here's why I say not sure I bought it. In order for the Soul Stone to work, you have to get rid of a soul you care about. I'm not convinced that Thanos really cared about Gamora, and I know they really tried to play that up as hard as they could.
They did.
But I didn't buy it. Did you guys buy that?
I
that
did.
was like the one thing that was kind of like...
I did.
Really?
I bought it. Especially with him, the tear coming down his face right before he grabbed her by the arm and threw her.
I saw it coming. I knew it was going to do it.
Yeah, the moment she started laughing,
right.
I'm like... I heard someone next to me go, she thinks he loves nothing. And I'm like, yeah, but it's going to turn out he loves her.
Right.
And there's his sacrifice. So I knew how the scene was going to play out.
Right.
But still, right before he grabbed her, I was like, I buy it.
I don't know. Part of me was a little, I don't know. I needed more of a backstory. You know what I mean? Like they provided just a very brief glimpse of that. It would have been better if one of the Guardians they had shown some more somewhere along the way that I could have bought into that a little bit. Well,
better, I think none of this was written. I think that's one of the plot things they needed to have happen.
Right,
so that's why they
jammed in.
That's why they spent enough time showing. She was the only one who got flashbacks.
Right.
They had to do those couple of flashbacks to her childhood and have the scene in the throne room where she talked about growing up there and everything.
Right.
So you really understood he was a parent to her for a long period of time and really make that connection again so that scene would work. And I think they did it just enough that it did.
Yeah, that was the one. So is Gamora dead? That's the next question.
She's coming back.
What do you think, Gary? Is she dead?
She's in the stone.
You think she's in the Soul Stone?
She's in the stone. That's where he was at the end before he had a vision inside the stone. All the red and with the whole kind of pagoda-looking thing. Standing there as a kid. She's in the stone.
Okay, so that's all inside the Soul Stone.
Yeah,
okay.
I think for a moment when he did his snap, he was inside. He was inside the Soul Stone. Like maybe he was one of the half that was going to be taken, but being the one in charge of the gauntlet, he got back out.
Okay, I get what you're saying. So he saved himself, literally.
In a way, yeah. I think, and that might be why the whole gauntlet is burnt up. He saved himself.
No,
I got a theory on that.
Oh yeah,
go ahead.
The only person that's been able to really keep Thanos at bay was Scarlet Witch.
She did. That was actually interesting.
I think she did something to the gauntlet.
Oh, enchanted it maybe.
And when he snapped his fingers, it blew it up. And what we're seeing is what she is making the reality.
Oh.
Even though she went bye-bye herself.
Right. So, but that's the thing is, she could do that in the comics. She had reality-altering powers, but in the movie, they've only made her a telepath who can move things.
They
You think they're expanding
They
her?
really haven't expanded much on her magic abilities and stuff.
Right. You think
Because
they're-
remember, she was created by the Tesseract and all that.
Yeah. You think
Yeah.
yeah, that's true.
That is true
They gave
in
her
the
the powers
comics.
with that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's true in the movies. They used it. They were experimenting on them, didn't they?
Yeah.
Use the power of the stuff.
Oh, that's right.
in
I
the
forgot
castle
about
to
that.
create
And the castle.
her and her brother. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So she's kind of connected.
Yeah.
And she did have the power. The Vision told. I mean, I was surprised she had the power to destroy a stone.
Right.
And the Vision
Right.
said, "You're the only one who can."
Right. Because she was imbued with the power of a stone. Well, that makes sense too. Oh, wow. Wow, you just kind of like light bulb clicked a couple things for me there, Gary.
So-
That's
Here's a good one. You think Vision's dead,
No.
no.
but do you think he's coming back?
As the Vision? No.
I think he's coming back changed. I think he's coming back very Data, robotic, and maybe not even played by what's his name anymore.
Well, I don't think it'll be played by Cumberbatch.
Not Cumberbatch.
Or
Bettany.
Bettany.
Paul
Paul
Bettany.
Yeah.
I think he's coming back, but as very synthetic.
Really, you think so?
Because
Did
in the
that happen in
happened.
the comics?
It happened in the comics too. He was taken apart when he was put back together. He was white,
Yep.
which was a kind of a hint they gave with him turning gray.
Oh, that's right. He was kind of like a yellowish white, right?
And
No, he was all white.
Was he all white?
It didn't have any color to him.
Right.
And because he decided the color was pointless or something, 'cause he
Yeah.
was very robotic in his thinking, very logical.
Right.
And the Scarlet Witch went to hug him, and he's gone. No emotion. So if she gets to come back and he comes back, you can play off that whole thing where she loses.
Right.
She has the feelings for him that are now gone because he's not who he was anymore, and she has to
Mm-hmm.
deal with it.
yeah, but now she can't get pregnant.
With the robotic babies.
Right? Nanobots. So another question that I had, the ending. I mean, we're pretty much talking about that. Well, let's go back a minute. Actually, Thanos' homeworld,
Titan.
Titan. What do you think all of that was all about? I mean, there was a lot going on there. We ended up having Iron Man there. We ended up having Spider-Man there. We ended up having Strange was there. Who else? Groot.
All the Guardians showed
All the
up there.
Guardians showed up there.
Well, except for Groot and Rocket. They went with Thor.
Why use that as a plot point unless there's something else going on there?
Well-
That's the one thing I was kind of like when we walked away. I went,
The guy that was the bad guy on Thanos' team that was sticking the needles in the
Ebony Maw.
Yeah.
Ebony, yeah,
And Stranger. He was going back to that planet to meet Thanos.
He was supposed to bring Strange back with,
Right.
with the stone. That was their meeting place.
right,
So that's why that took place there.
And that's why the other ship, that's why when they got on his ship and they got rid of Ebony Maw, the ship went there anyway.
Right.
Because that was the place where he was supposed to get the time stone from them.
but I think there's so much more to it. You know what I mean? Like,
Well,
there's a little too
there's-
convenient. I think there's so much more to it, only because Strange ends up there with the Time Stone and all of that.
Well,
That's
he-
where he discovers all the different. You know what I
he
mean?
was supposed to be the only one who ended up there. Remember, the rest was
Right.
accidental. Iron Man
Right.
wasn't supposed to stow on board.
Right.
The Spider-Man wasn't supposed to stow on board, and the Guardians certainly weren't supposed to find out about it and follow.
right.
So it was, to me, it was like, that all tied into just being part of the plot. I think it was also necessary. They wanted to show the tragedy of his home world, that where he first witnessed the destruction that made him decide
Well,
there's something for the better good.
It was
Right.
him that destroyed the planet. His own
Right.
planet.
No,
His
no.
own-
They did.
No, because remember he said, I had a plan to take out half. They wouldn't listen, and because of that, this is the result. They destroyed
Yeah,
themselves.
yeah, that's right.
Right.
Yep.
So that's when he
Oh,
went
that's
on his
right, they went
plan
to battle with
afterwards.
themselves, yeah.
He decided, I need to stop this from happening ever again. So I think it was supposed to, again, I think the plot point of that was supposed to humanize him. They had to do a ton to make him humanized so that you felt something with Gamora's death, you felt something with, at the end, he
Everything
was
he did,
he was
yeah.
a very complex villain.
Right.
And I think that was the major point of putting it there.
He's just a misunderstood guy. That's all he is.
Well, I think that was their hope for you is that you would come across as him being a
Well,
misunderstood
that's the way
guy.
I always looked at him right from the get-go.
Here's the part
With some extreme views.
right, but also here's the other part that I kind of felt like is missing from the comics that really left a gaping hole in the movie. His motivation for doing everything he did. Do you guys remember what it was in the comic books?
Yep.
Well, it was all a love of death.
Right.
He wanted to impress death because he had a.
So part of me
fixation
said,
on it.
without that motivation, there's a gaping hole here. Like his motivation for doing everything he's doing is supposedly for humanity and to
It's to balance the
the
universe.
world,
The
yin and
universe.
yang, all that kind of stuff. Universe, sorry, the yin and yang thing. I didn't feel like that was enough. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, I feel like
if
that.
there had been a love thing in there with death plus that, I'd have been like, all right,
I
now
don't
buy
see. The
that,
problem
you know?
is, you can only go so far in the Marvel MCU. They have not personified major things like Infinity with the character Infinity and Death with the character of Death. They've not gone so far as to
Right.
give them characters. So I don't think they could introduce that as another layer in this movie and actually make there be a character that is Death, that he's in love. It'd be too much for the audience to buy. So I think they had to give him this half the universe balancing motivation to kind of meet that point. Like, why they took a thing that he did in the comics, which was to kill half the universe.
Right.
The reason being he wanted to impress Death, but they said in the movie, what if we make it he's to balance the
Balancing
universe?
things.
And I think that's why they had to do it.
Yeah, I get that. And I'm not saying they had to do it in this movie. I'm saying why didn't they, over the last 10 years, as they were building this all up, use Death as the embodiment of where we're going to move towards? They still could have kept the concept.
I do think that's where they've missed out on. They've been showing him over and over again, but only in teasers, and very little bit in Avengers.
Right.
When he was on the throne, was it Avengers or
Yeah,
it was
he met with
Avengers.
Loki and stuff.
Yep.
And then a little more in Guardians, where he dealt with Ronan and everything. So, no, you didn't see him in Avengers till the very end. He was a teaser at the end. He was more in Guardians, where he was on the throne dealing with Ronan. So you saw him a bit, but by that point, we're partway into the series.
But
So I think they
in
had
Avengers, he was there because he met with the Chitauri and ordered them to go to Earth.
His guy met with the
Well, still, he met with the guy who then met with the Chitauri.
Yeah,
so he was there for part of that.
And you do hear his voice.
Yeah,
right. You don't see him, but you hear him.
Yeah, I'm saying he was there, but he wasn't played up a lot as a
get what you're
character
saying.
until you got to like Guardians.
Right.
And by that point, we're it's 5 years deep into a 10-year series of
We're
movies, and
halfway into it.
I think that's when they're like, we got to put him in, and whole movies where he didn't show up until the end just to pick up the glove and be like, I got to do it myself. It's like they didn't use him at all in that movie.
Right.
I think that's one of the major missteps they've had over the 10 years is they wanted to get here, but they didn't set up enough plot points entirely
To get here.
to get there. They didn't earn it 100%. They pulled it off. I'm fine with it, but I think they could have earned it more.
Now the part I don't understand is if he goes to Asgard in the trophy room and takes the gauntlet, why did Peter Dinklage have to create it?
Remember? Okay, so I got an answer for that one. That comes in Thor Ragnarok. If you remember, when Hela grabbed the gauntlet, she said, "Oh, a fake," and dropped it.
Yeah.
It was a fake that was in Asgard.
So they're saying he went there and he picked it up and he was like, "This isn't
This
it."
isn't it. Yeah. And so then
And he
he left there and had to go find Peter Dinklage's character and
Yeah,
force
I
him
don't
to
buy
Like I
it.
said, I think
I don't buy it.
I think those are missteps. I think those are just things where
They screwed up.
They
I
didn't
mean,
really plan out all their things, and there's also the belief that wasn't he wasn't in Asgard when he was grabbing that thing.
Right.
He was somewhere else, and that was the glove he had made for himself, and he was just putting it on. He wasn't in Asgard taking it from Asgard because the Asgard one wasn't real, and he knew that. He had one made for him, and that was the one he was picking up and taking, and it just looked like Asgard when the cupboard opened and he took it, but it wasn't.
But I get what you're saying, Gary. You
Yeah.
have 10 years worth of planning, and you kind of foobarred a lot in between. You know, you kind
They
of
did.
You
They
fumbled the ball quite a bit in between.
And let's face it, over something that big, I'm impressed they held it together as tight as they did.
Right, yeah. I mean, it really, quite honestly, it could have fallen apart very easily for any other company, and for some reason, this stayed together.
What did they say it's been? Has it been 18 movies over 10 years?
18 movies, 10 years.
That's an amazing amount of planning
Yes.
to pull together as many threads as they did, and to have it hold together as well as it does.
Right.
You could shred it. Like, think of Star Wars.
Right.
Major films were only 8.
Right.
And
9.
People
People are shredding.
We haven't
said
gotten
we're
9 yet.
getting into 9 yet.
But we're only 8 major movies in with 2 side movies, and
People are shredding each other
shredding
over it all.
the flow of it. These
Yeah.
guys got through 18, and we have to kind of hunt for things we
This
don't
is
like.
true.
So they've done a pretty good job.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What about the Battle of Wakanda? What did you guys think of the whole battle of the creatures coming in and Wakanda doing what it had
Well,
to
what's
do?
funny is I saw someone complain that it was wasted screen time. That they were having the daughter there, his niece there, trying to remove the stone when ultimately she failed at it. And I'm like, that's the point of the scene. She was, people fail. It's why.
Right.
They're like, well, why even make that part of the movie? Because they didn't know they were going to fail. As characters, they're going to try to do it.
Right.
So it's like, don't complain about that. Just like I heard, my least favorite, the New York Times. I think it was the New York Times. Did you read about their review?
No.
And they're getting shredded online. But one of their big complaints, the guy watched it, was characters aren't even introduced. They're just brought in and things happen. And it's like, because
There's
it's been
whole
10
movies.
years, all this, it's like you're complaining about. This is someone else said something like, "Oh God, it was horrible when they didn't give an entire backstory to Luke in Return of the Jedi when he showed up at Jabba's palace because I didn't know who that was." It's like you can't fault
Right.
a movie for that's the point.
Right.
You kind of have to be in the know to watch this movie.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say he's a bad movie reviewer if he hasn't watched any movies in the last 10 years.
No, right?
And that's the thing. He's getting shredded online for saying that.
And sometimes there are people that are that innocent, like they're not really paying attention, and they go do something like that. And it's like, are you kidding? Like, do your research first before you jump into it.
One of the big ones is Rex Reed. He's I used to remember him when I was a kid reviewing movies, and now he's gotten really old.
Yeah.
And apparently his reviews, when you read them, it's like he didn't watch the movie. He didn't get it. If he did, it's like he's such a confused old man. He's writing about stuff, and people are going, that didn't happen in the movie. His reviews literally have stuff in them that didn't happen in the movie that he's complaining about. He's hilarious to read. So if I got to look up what his review is on Avengers, because I'm sure he tears it apart.
So here's another one too. I mean, so we talk about this battle, and a lot of people were like, why have Wakanda as the centerpiece? And so, like, I tried to explain this to people. First off, it's the only place that's going to have the tech they needed
to get the stone out.
It was right. Not only just the stone, but the defense shield that they needed. I mean, there had to be a couple things that Wakanda had to be able to do that nobody else could do.
Right.
Now, somebody brought up the question to me, how could Thanos have known that Wakanda was there? And I'm kind of like, well...
He didn't. He was tracing the stone.
Right. He chased the stone
They always knew where Vision was. They showed up attacking him without...
Right, without even thinking about it.
They could follow that stone.
Right. And so, I said it's kind of like a homing beacon. It's like, obviously whoever wielding the gauntlet is going to be able to find the stones. This is almost like Gatekeeper and Keymaster and Ghostbusters. The two can find each other at any given time.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of having Wakanda as like the centerpiece of the battle at the end? Did that work for you, or did that not work?
That worked totally for me. I was fine with it. I mean, and that's the thing, is I know it was a playoff of they just introduced Wakanda and did all that with the characters, but like you said, with their tech, it all made logical sense to me. And I even kind of liked their way of doing it, where they could have held them off for a certain period of time, but they were going to be flanked, so they had to kind of create a pinch point to attack them at. I mean, and it all would have been...
I actually kind of liked the strategy behind it,
some of the strategies were really cool, and then, of course, the aliens releasing the giant things that just dug through the ground. I mean, it like kept upping itself, so I was okay with it. I kind of wanted to see a bit more of like Cap in the fight, like a long tracking shot of him over one guy, under another guy, knocking two out, doing a flip, doing a spin, something that would have really brought Cap home bigger.
Almost like they did with Falcon, and a couple others.
And I felt like all of Cap's fighting was very in close, and I didn't get a sense of him being the leader soldier that he is. I'd like to have seen him like pushing people forward and telling flanks when to attack and becoming the leader that I could have used more of that. But also they're telling so much they can't do everything. So.
Right.
And at that point, he's not really captain either. So you said earlier,
he's so nomad at this point that I don't think he sees himself as a leader.
And he's not the leader of Wakanda. I think he would he would say that's yours.
That's Black Panther's job. Yeah.
I liked it for the fact that you didn't have the problem that Man of Steel had.
Yeah, all the
all right, where
all the side deaths,
all the innocent people getting wiped out.
Yeah,
because it's taking place in the middle of the city.
Yeah,
right. Right, and it was out far enough in a field that we didn't care. That what I mean? That Wakanda,
yeah, it was a battlefield.
Right. So what about when Thor came? Was Stormbreaker?
Well, I just want to say, I got to say this about this movie. This entire movie has put Thor's strength level and power level on a new level, right? On a new level.
Yeah.
He can survive an explosion of a spaceship, float in the vacuum of space, and be fine. He can... basically stand the power of a star firing at him, burning him. And he was burning up from it, but he survived it, and he recovered. Right. And then he gets Stormbreaker, and he shows up and just decimates ships and armies. He's the only one who puts what could have been a killing blow into Thanos. I mean, he comes down and punctures his chest and could have killed him. They definitely, I mean, it's going to be... This is why I don't think he can necessarily die in the next movie. I think he's got to go off to some other level, because I think he's so powerful they can't kill him in the next movie, logically.
He's got his father's powers now.
I mean, he is.
There's no doubt now he is taken on the throne of Asgard. He's
the only way he can lose his power is I could see him bequeathing Stormbreaker, like we said, to another character, and becoming just the ruler of Asgard,
right?
And giving up the Thor
letting
level.
Somebody else be the warrior, and him just being the king.
And I could see that how they end his storyline. That way, again, 8 years down the road, we want Hemsworth back. He's king of Asgard,
right?
Whatever the new Asgard is,
right?
So I think we're seeing ways here that all these characters can end their contracts without dying, and I really feel like that's what Marvel's gonna do,
right? Okay, so we all know about the epic ending. Now all these people fade away. All this stuff happens. Theories about what happened at the end? Because I have some theories. I'm going to talk about them in a second. But do you guys have theories about what What happened
Thanos
at the
won.
end of this movie? Like
Thanos won.
And how did he win? Like, what did he use? Where are those people? Are they dead? Are they not?
I agree with the theory that the Soul Stone is a connection to a parallel to one of the alternate universes, one of the multiverses.
It's literally called the Soul Universe.
It's a Soul Universe. This is how they're going to get. I think this is how they're going to start bringing in the multiverse.
Okay.
Into the whole idea, even more so into the Marvel Universe, which could also lead to how they bring in eventually X-Men, Fantastic Four, all that as a crossover from another universe. So I think multiverse is going to be very important in the next movie, and I think all those characters, all they're going to learn that all of those people, they're dead, they're gone, but they're not dead. They're literally gone. They're all sucked into the Soul Stone, into this alternate universe, probably in a state of unawareness. Even they don't even know they're there, no consciousness.
Right.
But they can be recovered from the stone. So I think they can reset the damage to the universe. I think what we're going to have to see is outside of the snap being way people are killed permanently. Like you said, the snapping of Loki's neck, the stabbing of Heimdall, the whatever happens in Avengers 4 if Cap does end up dying and getting killed.
If Gamora is a done deal.
If Gamora is a done deal, I think it's going to have to happen outside the stone.
Right.
I don't think the stone is the ending of half the universe. I think it could have been if it doesn't get reversed, but I think there's a plan in place. Doctor Strange had a plan.
Right.
He's the key.
He was so quick to give up the time stone. I always pointing that out to friends. There's got to be a reason that happened.
Well, think about that. Here's the other thing. Thanos is the dead giveaway. He says to him, "You didn't even use your best weapon."
Right.
He did. He did it before Thanos got there, I think. I
Right.
think he did something in the past to change how this was going to
How the future was gonna lay out.
How it was going to lay out. But to do it, Thanos still had to snap it. Something had to happen. He did something.
Right.
So I think it's the combination of the time stone being the reset and the soul stone not being death but taken away
Right.
into one of the multiverse, another universe. Those two things I think are what are going to allow the recovery to happen.
So I had two theories. My first theory I like better than my second. I got to be honest with you. My first theory is he used the reality stone earlier in the movie. That's the thing. He used it earlier. So what we're really experiencing, what we're seeing in the Wakanda fight, what we're seeing in the fight on Titan, all those things, is an alternate reality. So when Thanos snapped his finger, we went back to reality, and what's left is the alternate reality. So this flip-flops everything. So everybody assumes that the original Avengers are all alive.
Right.
So Cap's alive, Iron Man's alive, Hulk's alive. When in reality, they're all dead.
Right. They're the ones who passed
They're
away.
the ones
Everyone
who
else
passed
escaped
away,
back to
and
reality.
everybody else came back to reality, and suddenly, and it would make sense because we've talked about the possibility of Iron Man, Cap, Hulk, some of these guys dying, and what that would mean to the Marvel Universe. We talked about, you could replace Cap with Winter Soldier, you could replace this character with that. The whole Guardians would be pretty much saved except for Rocket, and quite honestly, Rocket's expendable. Sorry, people, for who are fans of Rocket. It saves Groot, who actually is more popular than Rocket is in the Guardians world. So when you look at all these things, Nebula would be dead. I don't think anybody would be totally upset about Nebula being gone. So part of me said that would be a cool way. It's a lot of death.
Yeah.
If Disney decides to go that route. I think it would be massively cool. But I also think it would totally devastate half of the audience if they were to come and find out that's the reality. That's why I think I lean towards Disney not necessarily doing that one. I love it. I think it would be an amazing way to go. The Reality Stone changed it all. I still think it's back to, as you said, now that you said the multiverse thing, that makes even more sense with something else I'm going to say in a minute. I think they could have gone to the Soul Stone, as you suggested, and the answer to that may have already been revealed. Because we have not talked since Guardians of the Galaxy 2's post-teaser trailer about the character they revealed there, which is Adam Warlock.
Right.
And a lot of people don't understand that Adam Warlock, in order for him to imbue all his power, had to take the Soul Stone from the Mad Titan. And the person who does that is Nebula. She literally pulls the stone out of Thanos, throws it at Warlock, and it goes into his third eye, and boom. We have the Adam Warlock we know. It would be easy for Disney to use that. I mean, why not at the beginning of the next movie? Adam Warlock comes out of his cocoon, and here he is. And now we've got Nebula, and you just have to kind of set things up, and then boom, we can make that happen. And because Warlock's got Soul Stone in his head, he controls the Soul world and the Soul universe, and he could let people in and out of the Soul universe. Totally would work. All those people are alive, and then suddenly everybody's saved. Yeah, you know, and that's where I'm kind of like, I don't like that idea, only because maybe there's not any death at all. Maybe the only death is Heimdall and Loki, and even that for me is not enough to be like, wow, these are gut-wrenching movies.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of that theory, but it could work.
Yeah.
I mean, there's.
See, I think the way I'm calling some of these, I'm going to make predictions now. I think most of the ways I've described characters could survive without being kept in their contracts could end up becoming true. I can see Thor going off to be king.
Right.
And someone new taking the hammer. I could see Tony Stark going to live with with Pepper Potts and giving up the mantle of Iron Man because someone else can wear the suit. I could see Hulk becoming Hulk permanently and becoming an all digital character.
Right.
But here's what I do see. I see Cap could be killed.
Yeah.
And it would be the gut punch if they took away a lot of deaths but focused in on the intensity of that one.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And someone else can take up his mantle, become the next Cap, maybe Bucky, like he
Right.
did in the comics. But even Cap, when he was killed, was gone for years and came back.
He
They
did.
could
Yep.
kill him in such a way that maybe someday...
There's that question.
There's that question,
Yeah.
but not enough that it really does. I think...
Or you can even come back as just Steve Rogers and not Captain America, an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., which happened in the comics,
I
too.
think most of the... I really think Disney's going to go this way. Some of the death might be permanent. I do... maybe Loki is gone. Maybe... Cap could die. Maybe certain people like Nebula will get taken out because, and Rocket.
It's convenient.
Yeah, and some of the Guardians might come back, but we might lose Drax. We might lose Rocket, something like that. I think major ones like Star-Lord, Gamora are safe. I think other major ones like Thor and Iron Man are safe, but are going to go off and not be around anymore.
Right.
Black Widow can get killed.
Black Widow can get
True.
killed because they've already said her movie takes place in her past. That
Right.
They're going to be doing a Black Widow movie, and that takes place in her past.
Yep.
So she could get killed, and that would be a pretty big one because she's one of the originals.
But-
I think the ones we're not.
But you could counter Black Widow. I got another one to that. Black Widow's a name.
Yeah.
It was a program that the Russians used. So even if you kill Black Widow, they could find another Russian super soldier that they could name Black Widow. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, you could play that game too. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, but there's some we're not talking about yet, and it was the big ones that were not in this movie.
Hawkeye.
We don't have Hawkeye yet. There's
Who's
something
going to be Ronin? We
There's
know that
something
much.
major that's going to happen in the next movie with him, and Ant-Man is going to stick around. But we could lose Hawkeye. Hawkeye could get killed in the next movie.
I don't think he will, and I'll tell you why. Because they've already said he's going to be Ronin. I think he's going to show up at the end of Ant-Man as Ronin. Now, the multiverse thing you brought up works very well with my other theory, which is Ant-Man it's happening in between. It's important. Part of me says, what if Ant-Man uses the microverse to get into the Soul universe? So there's your multiverse. He gets in with Ronin. They find out what happened, and Ant-Man can get out of the Soul universe by using the microverse to get out the other way.
And it's all because Doctor Strange sends them a message back in time.
Da-da-da.
This is a really complicated.
see what I'm
I
saying?
think it's too complicated. I don't know. I know they get into
It's
the
very complicated, yes, but I think movie fans who've been
Yeah.
watching all this could
They're
follow
gonna,
it.
they've made it clear that they're getting into the macroverse a lot.
Yeah.
Or the microverse a lot with the next Ant-Man movie. So there's
Absolutely.
probably going to be some kind of connection there. And then there's
But I think that would be a great connection. If Doctor Strange got them a message, they go back, they help save the day, they can reverse some of what's going on through the microverse. I mean, this would be a cool way to tie it all together. And you're, like you said, you're introducing your multiverse, you're doing all the things you talked about doing.
And we could be way overthinking all this. It could go much simpler.
We could be. And they could all be dead. And we could.
I still like, the last thing I want to say is I still like my idea of, in the end, if they do want to continue with these characters, but they don't, these people are definitely gone, they're going to rewrite their contracts, they break the reality stone.
Okay.
There's a ripple.
And they get to reset everything.
They get to recast certain characters, maybe not all of them, but
Right.
certain ones, and you keep Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange, and he's the only one that sees that it happened because he
I
can
get
see
what
other
you're-
dimensions.
yeah, yeah.
So, and what I wrote and what I posted on Facebook was, you see Captain America now being played by Armie Hammer turn to Doctor Strange and say, you work really, thanks for all that you did with us. You've been an enormous help. Have you ever considered being an Avenger? And Doctor Strange stammering, taking his hand, going, I work best alone.
Yeah.
And staring at his face for a second, but no one else acts weird because the Reality Stone broke, and you can literally recast characters, reboot characters written into the plot of the story.
Sure, because it's an altered reality. That's what I said is the brilliant thing about having the Infinity Gauntlet. There is literally an infinite number of things we could do with this. I mean, that's the awesome Pandora's box that Disney has opened up here. It is infinite in what they could decide to do on the flip side.
And
of
all I can say is I feel so bad for the DC movie universe.
I know, right?
There's no way.
We're not even talking about it anymore.
There's no way they can. I mean, it passed the entire run in its first weekend.
Right.
Everything that Justice League made for its entire run.
Yep.
In 3 days.
This
Avengers passed
is it the second best opening weekend ever, or did it pass?
It passed.
So it is now the opening.
Yeah, because it beat out Force Awakens.
Unbelievable. I mean, that is just unbelievable. But with all the hype, 10 years worth of hype. How do you not?
But James Cameron's still on suicide budget.
So ultimately, it sounds like all three of us liked this film. I mean, there's no doubt that all
Let's
three
rate
of us.
Up to 10.
Should we rate it?
Yeah.
Okay. 0 being a don't bother, 10 being a must see. We could do that. I'm all for that. Anybody want to go first?
9.
9.
I can't. 10's really hard for me. Very few movies are perfect, but as a culmination of a universe, if you've seen all these other movies, if you've been invested like we have, even with a couple faults it has, even with the nitpicking we can find with power levels or this or plot that, or it was to me epic and fantastic. I give it a solid 9.
What would you give it, Gary?
Solid 8.
Okay. Any major plot points that fell short for you?
Well, mainly for me is the hand, the glove.
Okay.
That needs to be explained to me a lot better than just the fake.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean the Asgardian one?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I have to do this myself, and he comes and gets it, and it's where it's left off. Then they're saying that he forced the.
I just think it was a whoops.
Nah, it's not a whoops. It's a.
It's a big whoops, but it's a whoops.
Yeah, they just had to make it so that they had to fire up the star again. That's all.
Well, they needed to have Stormbreaker, and they didn't know how else to do that.
Right.
So
which they could have just had Beta Ray Bill and Thor just come. Hey, I need your hammer.
Yeah. Here you go, dude. Yeah. I give it a 10. And I'll tell you why I give it a 10. There's several reasons. First off, it was a great balance of action and comedy. I didn't expect to see that. We kept getting told this movie's going to be dark, expect deaths, this is going to be gritty, this is going to be... And then the humor not only was well played, but worked. You're in like the grittiest moment of the whole film, and you point out Rocket Raccoon's like, someday I'm gonna get that arm. You know what I mean? Like,
great line.
Just a great line. Which in the middle of that fight, here you are, like, oh my gosh, who's gonna die? And then you're like, he's gonna get his arm. Like, you never knew at any given moment what you were supposed to be feeling. You watch somebody die, there's a joke about that. You watch Thor, and there's muscles, and then there's a joke about that. Like, I liked the balance they gave about humor and action. That's hard to pull off, and I give the Russo brothers so much credit for that. The other thing I think that makes this a 10, this was a groundbreaking moment in that I think this is the Luke, I am your father moment of Empire Strikes Back of this generation. Having all these characters killed off, all that stuff that went on, I really think this is one of the groundbreaking moments of this generation, and I think it will forever be remembered for generations to come. That all this happened to these characters after 10 years, and the big question about what's going to happen. And for a year we get to debate it, which I love in the fact that we get a year to debate it. One of the big things that happened shortly after the movie came out, I thought this was interesting. A buddy wrote to me right away and said, "You're not going to believe this. I just found out, and I can't believe they're doing it. They canceled the Marvel panel at San Diego Comic-Con.
Apparently they're having no presence in Hall H.
No presence at all in Hall H.
You know why?
Like, oh my gosh, why would they do that? I'm like, they can't.
Well, no, not only that. In the fall, you've got D23.
Well, okay, that's true. I didn't even think about D23. But I said you can't. Anything these guys are going to come out to even attempt to say may reveal something that we don't want to know. I'm like, they can't talk. That's the problem.
Did you
for
see
at
the
least
footage?
The next year, they can't say anything.
Did you see the footage of Ruffalo from like 9 months ago where he was sitting next to Don Cheadle at some interview, and he's like, "Oh, wait till you see this next one. Everybody dies." He said this right in an interview, and Cheadle turns to him and goes, "Dude!" And he's like, "Some people die, some don't. Maybe you don't know." But he just says that off the cuff, and and Cheadle's like shaking his head at him. Oh my God, he's the same one who streamed live Thor Ragnarok. You heard about that?
Yeah.
He was Instagramming on his phone with some videos, and he put it in his pocket and didn't shut it off. Went into the preview, and the first 15 minutes of audio was live
stream of Thor Ragnarok because he didn't intend to do it.
I can see where they're definitely going to get rid of him and just keep a digital Hulk.
Ruffalo, you're killing me. You're killing me.
I love him. I love him as the character. But
I do too, and I actually liked him. Even as just Bruce Banner, he's really cool.
Yeah.
But somebody wrote to me, and I was like, well, of course they canceled. Like I totally expected that to happen because what are they going to talk about? They can't tell you anything. Yeah. So I think a year from now, San Diego Comic-Con will be like, I want to go. Because like at that point, cat's out of the bag. Everybody's going to talk.
Yeah, it's going to be Phase 4 is going to be announced, and we're going to know where they're headed with visuals, with new characters, with whatever.
How about the post-credit scene? We haven't talked about that. Real quick, we should hit that up before we... I know we're an hour and a half in, but we got to do this. Okay.
I don't even know if we're going to get to review our episodes.
We will. Don't worry about it. So, what did you guys think of the post-credit scene?
It was a perfect setup for Marvel, Captain Marvel. I was hoping for more, like you were. I wanted the zinger that was the level of the first Avenger, or the first Iron Man, the one where he says the Avengers initiative. I want this thing that makes me excited for the next 10 years. And that's what I remember during the first Iron Man, when Nick Fury says, I want to speak to you about the Avengers initiative. We had no Cap, no Hulk, no Groot, no Guardians, no nothing. None of this 10 years
We were all like, get out of town.
I stood up in the theater and pumped my fist and yelled out, yes! And people laughed, but they applauded too, because they all got, there were other excited people in there. I felt that 10 years ago.
Right.
That's the level of ending teaser that I wanted in this movie. And when I didn't get it, I was disappointed for a second, but then I went, okay, wait a minute. This isn't the end of the movie.
Right.
This is the halfway point of what is really two movies that make one big one. I think we're going to get that fist-pumping level of something at the end of Avengers 4. And I think it's going to be the introduction of the Sony purchase. I think it's going to be...
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Mutants are in
Fantastic
the universe.
Four.
Fantastic Four. Yeah. There's the Fantastic Four Baxter building. Something. We're going to get that. There's a lot to come in the next 10 years. I think that's what we're going to get the next one.
What if Deadpool just showed up? That actually would be awesome. That would be totally awesome.
If they got the rights to him, they'll try and work him in somehow.
I think they could. Actually, did you see Ryan Reynolds' response to the Avengers movie?
Oh, yeah, he posted the thing about the rejection letter.
The rejection letter from the Avengers, yeah, and good job, guys. Yeah. So I thought that was a great response from Ryan Reynolds. I agree with you. I was waiting for that moment. Here's the part I don't think nobody's debating this, and I can't believe they aren't. Nick Fury's still alive. Maria Hill is still alive. The assumption was
how
they're dead.
What do you mean they're still alive?
Well, the assumption was that after Fury betrayed everybody in Civil War.
Yeah, but he just walked off. He didn't get killed.
He said to Coulson. Well, this is okay. So going to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. In Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., he told Coulson, "I can't ever come back to this. I am done. I am officially done. You are the director of S.H.I.E.L.D." He literally walked away and said, "You will never see me again." No joke. He actually said it in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So Tara and I both, because we watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. religiously, her and I, Maria Hill and him walked away, gave all the files to Coulson, gave him the toolbox, and walked away.
Well, that's the thing is, were they acting for S.H.I.E.L.D. at that point when they were driving through the city?
I don't know,
doing something else. But he's got that thing that he's probably had for 20 years.
Yes, but here's the other catch of it all too. Look at Maria Hill's costume, and I got to watch it again. But I'm pretty sure like she's got the S.H.I.E.L.D. logo on her costume.
I mean, maybe. Are you ever out of the life? Maybe not.
Maybe not. And maybe there's a covert version of S.H.I.E.L.D. now, and that's part of me where I'm going, all right, is there a S.H.I.E.L.D. inside of a S.H.I.E.L.D.? They've done that before, like Hydra inside of S.H.I.E.L.D., so why not do a S.H.I.E.L.D. inside of S.H.I.E.L.D.? But, that was kind of like a, whoa, Fury's still here, Maria. And nobody else was getting that kind of vibe, and I'm kind of like,
here's the
this
problem.
is a big deal,
if you didn't watch the TV show.
You're right.
And I'm many seasons behind. So to me, the last I remembered seeing him was he in Civil War briefly? Yes. He was in Age of Ultron in the barn. Was he at all in Civil War?
Isn't he No, he wasn't. Age of Ultron was the last one because he brought the helicarrier at the end to help save the people.
Yeah, and we saw that. And so to me,
that was the last time we saw him.
He was like he wasn't done. Right. I didn't see that. So to me,
I don't know. That was just a shock to me for some reason to see Fury and Maria Hill. I agree with you. I wanted a little bit more, but the Captain Marvel tease. It didn't feel like a tease. I guess that's the weird thing of it all. We all know Captain Marvel's coming.
It felt like an advertisement.
Right. Okay, we know that's coming. We knew that was happening. And maybe it's because we know too much.
The best thing for me was the motherfucker.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I told Gary, I said I almost wanted him to finish it. Motherfucker.
You guys are going to have to put beeps in on this for the podcast.
But, so I just, I agree with you, Gary. That was kind of like, that was kind of funny. And then to have them fade off, too. And that's where everybody was like, see, now that has to be the people that die. And I'm like, I don't think Nick Fury dies. Sorry, people. And Maria Hill, I mean, it just... Everybody loves Kobe Smolder.
Yeah, I could see her being gone. I mean, she's such a side character.
Yeah, but I don't know. Okay, so those were our thoughts on Star Wars Resistance. Not much to think about there.
I get to say one last thing.
Go ahead.
Did you hear that the Russo brothers have said it's very likely Avengers 4 might be a 3-hour plus film?
I believe it. I'm surprised this one wasn't 3-hour plus. It could have been. Very easily.
It flew. For the 2.5 hours it was length.
I couldn't believe we were done when we got done.
Yeah.
So. Okay, folks, so those were our thoughts on Star Wars Resistance and Marvel Avengers Infinity War.
Yes.
I keep having to remind myself that's the official name of it. So we'd love to hear from you. So head on over to our website, galaxycast.com. Click on us, find us on Twitter, find us on YouTube. Email us at galaxycast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. I know you've all got your theories about the end of Infinity War. We'd love to hear them, and we'd love to discuss them here in our podcast. So we'll be back in just a little bit to review the latest episode of Star Wars Rebels.
Or the last episode. Are we going to do both?
We can check and see. Yeah. Okay, folks, we'll be back in a little bit. So, YouTubers, we're going to confuse you, but we decided we're not going to watch Rebels tonight. That's right, suck it. No, I'm kidding. It's just too late.
And well, not only that, we have enough information here.
We've got enough for a whole podcast
and
alone.
We'd hate to edit it. There's a
Gauntlet.
lot of good stuff in there about Infinity War, good ideas, good concepts. I hate to see any of it go.
Okay, so I'm just going to start a new line down here. Okay, so let me just listen quick to what we already... That means I'm going to turn this on. Here we go. The end of Infinity War. We'd love to hear them, and we'd love to discuss them here in our podcast. So we'll be back in just a little bit to review the latest episode of Star Wars Rebels. Trying to bring it down. Okay, so that's what we kind of said there. Hey, guys. Whoa, went to the beginning.
So I think, go to the end, and go to like about 1 minute into the ending.
Okay, so let's see, 133.
So like
130.
Yeah, start there. Let's hear a little bit.
Oh, I'll just turn it on.
It's a big deal. If you didn't watch the TV show, you're right.
I'm
it was a great
time. Season behind. So to me, the last I remember seeing was he in Civil War briefly? He was in Age of Ultron in the barn. Was he at all in Civil War?
I guess we're a little far back there.
He wasn't done. Right. I didn't see that. So to me,
I don't know. That was just a shock to me for some reason to see Fury and Maria Hill. I agree with you. I wanted a little bit more, but the Captain Marvel tease, it didn't feel like a tease. I guess that's the weird thing of it all. We all know Captain Marvel's coming.
It felt like an advertisement.
Right. Like, okay, we know that's coming. We knew that was happening. And maybe it's because we know too much.
The best thing for me was the motherfucker.
I love when he's just quiet forever and he comes in with that.
Yeah, just out of nowhere. See, this is what we do, people, when we listen to ourselves.
That's me, man.
But, so
YouTube's going to blast us, too.
You got to... Oh, that's true.
It was kind of funny.
I see people swear like crazy on YouTube.
I know, that's true.
That's where everybody was like, see, now that has to be the people that die. And I'm like, I don't think Nick Fury died. Sorry, people. And Maria Hill, I mean, it's just... Everybody loves
we're almost there.
Yeah, I can see her being gone. I mean, she's such a side character. Yeah, but I don't know. Okay,
right,
so those were our thoughts.
Right there. So we end with Maria Hill. So I think...
I get to say one last...
Wait, hang on. What'd you say?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Did you hear that the Russo brothers have said it's very likely Avengers 4 might be a 3-hour plus film?
I believe it.
There we go.
I believe it. I'm surprised this one wasn't 3-hour plus. It could have been. Very easily.
Oh, it flew. For the 2.5 hours it was length.
I couldn't believe we were done when we got done.
Yeah.
So. Okay, folks,
right there.
So
we talked about that. So I think we redo the part we said that's where our thoughts were on.
Okay.
So is there any way for you to put yourself... Oh, you're going to put the start that new recording right there so you'll know where
I can start it
in?
right there. Yep.
Got it.
So I know where it edits in. I'm just going to end the speaker. And our video, I think, is already going. All this time. Yeah. Okay. Just making sure. Okay, so those were our thoughts on Star Wars Resistance. We didn't have too much to say there compared to Infinity War, but...
Didn't have a lot of info yet.
We had a lot to talk about when it came to Infinity War, and those were our thoughts on the Avengers, Marvel's Avengers Infinity War. I mean, it's just... I think it's going to be a never-ending debate for at least the next year, if not plus. I don't remember the Empire Strikes Back days, but this must be what it felt like. It must be a year felt like this.
I was a kid, and I remember seeing it in the theater. And when that ending came up, and granted, the novelization came out a few weeks before.
Right.
But thanks God for no internet and none of that. No one knew the Vader trick of the father. No one knew how it ended. I mean,
Right.
very little of that had gotten out. I remember sitting in the theater, being surprised by that ending, and sitting there going, that's not how movies end.
Yeah, right.
I couldn't comprehend. My little brain
Yeah,
could not comprehend
wrap
it
your
at
head
the
around
time.
that. I could believe it. And
Yeah, I didn't care for the ending at that time either. I just it was like, really a cliffhanger?
yeah. What the heck? Where's my cereal? And where's the ending of it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it. Like, and this is very much has the same feel to it. And I think it's even more dramatic, this one, because it's not just one thing. It's like multiple things that we've got questions about. And so we have lots of questions just like you do. We'd love to know what they are. So go to galaxycast.com. Tell us what you think. Head over to our Twitter account. Find us on Twitter. We are out there. I'm starting to actually hit up our Twitter more. Find us on YouTube because, yes, we actually have a live YouTube channel.
Check out our
it's not totally
MySpace.
live. Yeah,
we
right.
don't have
Wait,
a
MySpace. Does MySpace even exist anymore? I've never even gone to that lately. So find us on social media. Again, email us, galaxycast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you guys. I know we spent a lot of time on this episode tonight, but I think you really got what we really were thinking, at least
Yeah.
for a majority of this film. So I really wanted to give it a good review. So as we always like to say here at the end of a wrap-up of the Star Production Studios,
May the Force be with those who listen. To Rocket.
I stopped it first. All right, people in Videoland, thank you so much. Have a
Bye.
good one. Resume.